Of this, there was some hesitation from Ramsdale. Eze, edge of the area, brilliant strike! It was beyond Ramsdale.
Picture this. It's May 2025, and Arsenal are lifting their first Premier League title in over 2 decades. The Emirates erupts. Tears of joy stream down Mikel Arteta's face. And at the heart of it all, a silky smooth winger from Crystal Palace, who Manchester City couldn't stop, who Liverpool couldn't contain, and who Tottenham thought they had wrapped up until Arsenal swooped in at the last second. Today, we're diving deep into why Eberechi Eze isn't just another transfer target for Arsenal. He's the missing piece that could finally end their title drought. And yes, we'll talk about how the Gunners completely hijacked this deal right from under Spurs' noses. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. The Arsenal puzzle. What's missing? Let's be honest. Arsenal have been tantalizingly close to greatness for the past 2 seasons. They've pushed Manchester City harder than anyone else. They've got one of the youngest, most exciting squads in Europe. And Mikel Arteta has transformed them from Europa League hopefuls to genuine title contenders. But here's the thing that keeps Arteta awake at night. They've been missing that X factor in the final third. That player who can create something from nothing when games are tight. That winger who can beat his man one-on-one and deliver the killer pass or shot that separates champions from nearly men. Look at their recent big games. The draws against City, the narrow defeats to Bayern Munich, those frustrating moments when they dominated possession but couldn't find the breakthrough. What do all these situations have in common? Arsenal needed someone who could take the game by the scruff of the neck and make the difference. Gabriel Martinelli is electric but can be inconsistent. Bukayo Saka is world-class but has been carrying too much creative burden on his shoulders. Leandro Trossard is versatile but not necessarily a game-changer. What Arsenal needed was a player who combines pace, skill, creativity, and that crucial ability to perform in big moments. Enter Eberechi Eze. Who is Eberechi Eze, the Crystal Palace magician? If you've watched Crystal Palace over the past 2 seasons and wondered how they've punched above their weight, the answer often comes down to one name: Eberechi Eze. This 26-year-old winger has been nothing short of sensational at Selhurst Park, and the numbers don't lie. Last season alone, Eze registered 11 goals and 4 assists in the Premier League. Impressive stats for a player in a team that finished 10th, but stats only tell part of the story. What makes Eze special is his ability to create magic out of thin air. Remember his goal against Manchester City in December? Palace were 1-0 down, looking deflated, when Eze picked up the ball 25 yards from goal. 2 touches later, the ball was nestled in the top corner, leaving Ederson with no chance. That's not luck, that's pure class. Or what about his performance against Arsenal earlier this season at Selhurst Park? He absolutely tormented Ben White down the left flank, created 2 clear-cut chances, and scored a goal that had Arsenal fans applauding grudgingly. Even Arteta was spotted having a long conversation with his scouts after that game. Eze's journey to this point hasn't been straightforward. He came through the ranks at Millwall, had to prove himself in the Championship with Queen's Park Rangers, and only made his Premier League debut at 22. This isn't a player who's had success handed to him. He's earned every opportunity through sheer determination and skill. Standing at 5 feet 10 inches with a low center of gravity, Eze has that classic winger's build. But what sets him apart is his football intelligence. He doesn't just run at defenders, he picks the right moments to accelerate, knows when to cut inside, and has developed an uncanny ability to find space in crowded penalty areas. The tactical perfect fit. Now, let's talk about why Eze fits Arteta's system like a glove. Arsenal play a fluid 4-3-3 that often morphs into a 4-2-3-1, with wingers expected to provide width, creativity, and defensive work rate. It's a demanding role that requires technical ability, tactical intelligence, and physical stamina. Eze ticks every single box. First, his dribbling ability. Arsenal's build-up play often gets congested in the final third against low-block defenses. City, Liverpool, and other top teams have learned to pack the center and force Arsenal wide. This is where Eze's one-on-one ability becomes crucial. He's completing 3.2 successful dribbles per game this season. Only 3 players in the Premier League have better numbers. Second, his versatility. While naturally left-footed and preferring the left wing, Eze has shown he can play anywhere across the front line. Remember when Palace's injury crisis forced him to play as a false 9 against Tottenham? 2 goals and an assist later, everyone was talking about his positional flexibility. For Arsenal, this versatility is gold dust. Arteta loves players who can rotate positions during games, creating overloads and confusing defenders. Imagine Eze drifting inside while Saka stays wide, or both wingers swapping flanks mid-game. The tactical possibilities are endless. Third, and this is crucial, his work rate. Some flair players are passengers without the ball, not Eze. He's averaging 2.1 tackles per game from wide positions, showing he understands the modern winger's defensive responsibilities. Under Arteta's intense pressing system, every player needs to contribute defensively, and Eze has proven he's willing to do the dirty work. But here's the most exciting part, his chemistry with England teammates. Eze has already built relationships with Saka, Rice, and White through international duty. That understanding, those partnerships, they don't need time to develop because they're already there. The numbers that don't lie. Let's dive into the data because the stats make a compelling case for why Arsenal are so desperate to sign Eze. Expected goals and assists combined, 0.68 per 90 minutes. That puts him in the top 10% of Premier League wingers. For context, that's higher than Marcus Rashford, equal to Raheem Sterling, and not far behind Mohamed Salah. Key passes per game, 2.8. In Arsenal's system, where creating chances is often about finding that killer pass in tight spaces, this number is crucial. Only Kevin De Bruyne and Bruno Fernandes have significantly better numbers among players who play wide positions. Shot conversion rate, 22%. This isn't just a player who gets into good positions. He's clinical when chances arise. Arsenal have sometimes struggled with wasteful finishing in big games, and Eze's composure in front of goal could be the difference between second place and glory. Progressive carries per game, 4.1. This measures how often a player advances the ball toward the opponent's goal through dribbling. For a team like Arsenal that sometimes struggles to break down stubborn defenses, having a player who can consistently drive forward with the ball is invaluable. But perhaps the most telling stat, big chance creation. Eze has created 12 big chances this season. That's more than any Arsenal player except Martin Odegaard. Imagine adding that creativity to a team that already creates the second most chances in the league. The Spurs hijack, how Arsenal stole the deal. Now for the juicy part, how Arsenal completely outmaneuvered Tottenham in this transfer saga. It all started in December when Spurs made their first approach for Eze. Ange Postecoglou had identified him as the perfect addition to his attacking system, and Daniel Levy was reportedly ready to make a £60 million bid. Palace were interested. Eze was flattered by Tottenham's attention, and everything seemed to be falling into place. But here's where Arsenal's superior planning and appeal shone through. While Spurs were still deliberating and trying to negotiate the price down, classic Levy behavior, Arsenal moved with ruthless efficiency. Edu Gaspar, Arsenal's sporting director, had been monitoring Eze for months. They'd already done their background checks, spoken to his representatives, and crucially, had Mikel Arteta personally call the player. The conversation between Arteta and Eze reportedly lasted over an hour. The Arsenal manager laid out exactly how he saw Eze fitting into the team, showed him tactical videos, and painted a picture of regular Champions League football and genuine title challenges. Compare that to Spurs' more generic approach, and you can see why Eze's head was turned, but the killer blow came when Arsenal offered something Tottenham simply couldn't match: immediate Champions League football and a realistic chance of winning major trophies. Eze is 26. He's entering his prime years and doesn't want to waste them on another project that might come good eventually. Arsenal also moved faster on the financial side. While Spurs were still trying to structure a deal with add-ons and installments, Arsenal put $65 million cash on the table. Palace chairman Steve Parish, facing financial fair play pressures of his own, couldn't ignore that kind of immediate payment. The final nail in Tottenham's coffin? Bukayo Saka personally called Eze and sold him on the Arsenal project. Having England's golden boy explain how special the Emirates atmosphere is, how close the team is to achieving something special, that's worth more than any agent's pitch. How Eze elevates Arsenal to title winners. So how does Eberechi Eze transform Arsenal from title challengers to actual champions? Let me paint you a picture of what Arsenal looked like with Eze in the team. Scenario 1. It's April 2025, and Arsenal are facing Manchester City at the Etihad in a potential title decider. City are employing their usual tactic of forcing Arsenal wide and then doubling up on Saka. But now Arsenal have a different option. Eze is isolated one-on-one with Kyle Walker down the left. He drops the shoulder, shifts inside, and suddenly there's space for Odegaard to exploit. Goal. Title race advantage, Arsenal. Scenario 2. Champions League quarter-final against Real Madrid. The game is tight, both teams are canceling each other out. Then Eze does what he does best, creates something from nothing. A moment of individual brilliance that unlocks a stubborn defense and sends Arsenal into the semi-finals for the first time since 2009. But it's not just about individual moments of magic. Eze's presence changes how teams approach playing against Arsenal. Currently, opposition coaches can focus their defensive attention on stopping Saka and Odegaard. Add Eze to the mix, and suddenly there are 3 genuine threats that require individual attention. This creates space for everyone. Rice gets more time on the ball in midfield. Gabriel Jesus finds more room to operate between the lines. Even the center-backs benefit because opponents can't commit as many players to pressing high up the pitch. Defensively, Eze adds another layer to Arsenal's already impressive pressing game. His pace means opponents can't play out from the back as comfortably, and his work rate means there are no passengers when Arsenal lose possession. But perhaps most importantly, Eze brings that winner's mentality that separates good teams from great ones. He's a player who's had to fight for everything in his career, who's never been handed success on a plate. That hunger, that desperation to prove himself at the highest level, that's exactly what Arsenal need to get over the line. The financial genius of this deal. From a business perspective, this deal is absolutely brilliant for Arsenal. At £65 million, Eze represents incredible value in today's inflated market. Compare that to what other Premier League clubs are paying for similar players. Chelsea spent £100 million on Enzo Fernandez. Manchester United paid £85 million for Antony. And City spent £100 million on Jack Grealish. Eze is entering his prime years at 26, meaning Arsenal get at least 4 to 5 years of peak performance. His contract will likely include performance-related bonuses tied to team success, aligning his personal incentives with Arsenal's ambitions. Plus, there's the homegrown factor. Eze counts as an English player for squad registration purposes, helping Arsenal meet Premier League and UEFA requirements without limiting their ability to sign international players in other positions. Conclusion: the final piece of the puzzle. Here's the bottom line. Arsenal have built something special over the past 3 years, but they've been missing that final piece of the puzzle, the creative spark, the game changer, the player who can turn a good team into champions. Eberechi Eze is that player. His signing doesn't just improve Arsenal's starting 11, it transforms their entire tactical approach, gives them depth and flexibility they've never had, and adds a winner's mentality that could be the difference between another near miss and actual silverware. The fact that they've outmaneuvered Tottenham to secure his signature is just the cherry on top. While Spurs continue to promise jam tomorrow, Arsenal are delivering success today. Mark my words, when Arsenal lift the Premier League trophy next May, Eberechi Eze will be right at the center of the celebration. And Tottenham fans will be left wondering what might have been if they'd moved faster, offered more, and matched Arsenal's ambition. What do you think? Is Eze the signing that finally gets Arsenal over the line? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more transfer analysis and tactical breakdowns. The title race is about to get very interesting.